So our moderator tonight is Eunice McCoy, our current YP president. She's been our president for the past 2 years. Eunice is a passionate millennial community leader who is committed to organizations to support the advancement of disadvantaged communities. She currently works at the National Urban League as a director of event marketing. Eunice has been an active member of the New York Urban League Young Professionals, where she's been a member for the past 6 years. She serves as the chapter membership co-chair, the chapter's membership chair, and now our current chapter president. A wanderer at heart, Eunice loves traveling, collecting new passport stamps, and finding the adventure in ordinary life. She holds a bachelor's of business administration from Adelphi University in Garden City, New York. Let's give a round of applause to our current president and our moderator for tonight, Ms. Eunice McCoy, Madam President.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited for this conversation tonight because tonight we're joined by giants of the movement, y'all. We are joined by some dynamic presidents that led our chapter to greatness and who were just amazing members and can continue to still pour into the movement and pour into our chapter. So I'm excited to be joined by the amazing people who are on this panel today. And get into this conversation about what does leadership look like and how did they lead our chapter and what qualities should we be thinking about as we think about the next leadership group for our chapter. So I have the pleasure of introducing our wonderful panelists. I'm going to start with our immediate past president and chief program officer of the New York Urban League, Ms. Shalima L. McCants. So Shalima is an engaging community leader who has dedicated her personal and professional efforts towards creating pathways for opportunities and success for children and youth with a focus on leadership development for girls. Equipped with 15 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, Shalima serves as the Chief Program Officer for the New York Urban League, where she supports the strategic vision for the Education, Advocacy, and Employment Initiative. Recently, Shalima was recognized by New York City chapter of National Association of Social Workers as a mid-level career professional and inducted into the Women's and Human Services Hall of Fame by the nonprofit for a Stronger New York City. She maintains an active membership in the Zeta Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, chartering secretary for the parliamentarians of Westchester County, and a member of the New York City chapter of National Association of Social Workers, and serves as our immediate past president of the New York Urban Young Professionals. Thank you, Shalima, for joining us. We are so excited to have you here on the panel. Next, I will introduce Erica Beckles. Erica is a proud New York City native who hails from Harlem and has a passion for community development, arts, and social justice. Faithfully, Erica followed her voice within dance and studied as a scholarship student for the Dance Theater of Harlem in the Alvin Ailey School. After years of performing, Erica shifted into the corporate world, working within human resources, talent acquisition, and diversity for several organizations such as the Huffington Post, in NBC Universal, HBO, BuzzFeed, and Disney. And currently she serves as a senior diversity program manager for Meta, leading global tech diversity, recruiting programs, and community partnerships. Erica is a passionate thought leader with extensive experience driving collaboration, culture, and community engagement through her work professionally and personally. Erica serves as the board for Dance IQL and a strategic consultant for Dancers Amplified, where she leverages her previous dance experience with professional expertise in diversity and equity work. For the last 10 years, Erica has been an integral leader with the National Urban League movement, serving as the chapter president of the award-winning New York Urban League Young Professionals and steering committee member for the Bay Urban League. Erica served on the National Executive Leadership Team as the immediate past Leadership Training Development Chair and is a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Thank you, Eric, for serving with us and being on the panel. Then we have Jamar. Jamar T. Ward is the Global Director of HR and Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Built on, Jamar oversees the entire HR function, as well as leads the organizational equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts. He's also a certified life coach and a cannabis entrepreneur. His love for the community and his desire to respond to the first urgency of now is evident in his level of passion, dedicated, and commitment to he emphasized through his very volunteer community initiatives while being a strong voice through his work and leadership in various capacities. Jamal leverages the knowledge and lessons of his personal experience to make a meaningful difference in the underserved and positively impact the lives of young men through mentorship. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Inc., and a longtime New York Urban League Young Professionals member. And his Urban League journey includes Civic and Economics Chair, Vice President, and President. And nationally, he served on the Eastern Region Vice President and Executive Vice President. He's proud that this chapter won 2014 Chapter of Excellence and Eastern Region Chapter of Excellence during his term as ERVP and EVP. And he holds an undergraduate degree in political science and a master's of public administration from Binghamton University. And he's a globally certified as a senior human resource professional through the Society of Human Resources Management. Thank you, Jamar, for being on the panel as well. And last but not least, Rashid. Rashid is the founder of Align Coaching, where he supports his development and clarity and strategy and equity, inclusion, self-development, career, and personal branding. Rashid honed his people-to-people skills as a human resources leader in luxury residential real estate rental companies, luxury hospitality, and a historic civil rights organization, the National Urban League. In his book, About That Life, Leadership Lessons for the Urban Professional, Rashid shares his personal struggle finding his fit and being authentic in his community, at work, and even in his own skin. Through each chapter, his book empowers readers to overcome challenges, self-awareness, and purpose, networking, and being authentic. Through his work in diversity, equity, inclusion, education, Rashid facilitates conversations about inclusion, belonging, and naming causes of inequality, and how to create equity, parity, and power. He holds certifications in professional coaching, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and human resource. In addition, he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and holds a degree in communications from the University of Louisiana, Monroe. I am joined by such dynamic people and amazing bios I just read. We have amazing presidents who have served on our chapter, and I'm so thankful that you guys agreed to be here and to speak about your leadership journey and how you led our chapter and what led you here today. So let's hop right into it. And I'm going to start with Rashid, as you are our oldest president on the chapter, being president in 2009. And as I was looking to this, I was like, I wasn't even YP eligible when you were president. But thank you for being here. So I'm going to ask you to start and talk about, your YP journey and what was YP like when you were president? What was happening with the chapter?
Well, thank you, Madam President, and thank you everyone for allowing me to be here. It's so great to see not just other past presidents, but friends, right? And people that I've met and throughout the general body through the years. So I'm so great. And I also want to take a moment to recognize my fraternity brother, another past president, Chadwick Roberson, who's in the room as well. And so he's on tonight, and maybe we could pull him up, pin him. It ain't gonna hurt. And I'm sure he's camera ready. But let's see. So my journey. So I started the Urban League movement. I knew what the Urban League was like peripherally. And when I was home from college one summer, working in New Orleans in 1996, the national convention was in the Marriott Hotel, and I was a houseman for the summer. I was so impressed with, we weren't saying Black excellence then, but I was so impressed with everyone, the movers and shakers, people I saw on TV. So fast forward, I graduate from college. I'm a recruiter in a hotel. Here comes the Urban League asking me to interview their job readiness candidates. And of course I was blown away and I was a yes. At the time it was called the Urban League of Greater New Orleans. It's now called the Urban League of Louisiana. Fast forward, I moved to New York, and I came from a 75% Black city. New Orleans was 75% Black pre-Katrina. And so my first thought was I needed to plug in, when I got to New York, plug in with the Black community. Immediately got connected, Googled, maybe it was Yahoo at the time, I don't know, looked at YP or the Urban League, and I saw that they were having a general body meeting. Showed up, became community service chair 6 months later, and the rest is history, which we'll talk about. But what it was, YP for me at the time, it was an access point. For me, it was the social scene, like everybody who was anybody. We met down on Wall Street at the time. It was every Black professional that I could think of, or people coming from Wall Street. A lot of people looking for a home and safe space before we were saying psychologically safe, because they were usually the only people that looked like them in their, mountains of cubicles. And so we would just meet up, and it was a place to get to know people, and you were standing on a legacy, and there was a request of you to get some work done, which are things that I had been taught as a Black child, like you got to give back, right? And so the Urban League was a way to do it with people who were my age group at the time. So that's how I got started. And yeah, it was sexy. It still is sexy, but it was all these things going on.
Okay, thank you. Let's go in reverse order of presidents. So Jamar.
Thank you, Madam President, and hello, panelists and guests. Glad to be here in the service. So to answer the question, what was YP like when I was in leadership? I want to say there was transition. Rashid has just finished his presidency, and there was an election. There wasn't an election actually. There was appointment. And that appointment did not work out. And then that appointment's vice president didn't work out. And so here I am, right? So I take over and have a team in place with.
Oh, and Jamar, you hit that mute button. Can you come back to us? We want to hear all those gems you're dropping.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people see me as like the immediate president right after Rashid, but technically there's 2 presidents before that. In a span of, I think it was 4 months, I think it was. Yeah, so a lot was happening during that time, a lot of transition, a lot of change. So I come in to help shepherd in that new era. Somebody wants the tea another time. So yeah, so a lot of change, a lot of transition, a lot of strategy. So meeting, getting with the team at the time and setting out this larger vision for the next 2.5 years, and just really making sure that the relationship with Arthur was strong, because she had really just probably been in office maybe 2 years at that time, and still building that trust with YP. Rashid did a bang up job, and she wanted to make sure that trend continued, and kind of kept a close eye. But so yeah, it was a lot of change. But I think during my time in leadership, I think, in my humble opinion, that was like the height of YP. We had the most members, we had the most things going on, raised a lot of money during that time. So I think in that transition, I think we kind of figured it out at that point. Mm-hmm. So I'll stop there and talk more later. But yeah, that's what it was like.
Thank you. Erica?
Madam President, can you reiterate the question? I want to make sure I'm answering it.
Okay, so the question was to talk about what was YP like when you were president? And the years you were president. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. I just made 10 years in the movement early in January of this year. And I'm blessed and happy to still be actively in the movement. I think in regards to my term in 2016 to 2018, we were going through transitions. I'll say that. The bar was set very high by my predecessors, and there wasn't a female president for quite some time prior to me coming in. So my election was a bit contentious. I was appointed to my respective role. I want to be transparent, because we are in the room of safe space room with family members, YP. So I at least want to share that. So for me, it was very intimidating, but it was intimidating because the bar was set so high by the previous leadership. And we had some great leaders that I really wanted to make sure that I was able to engage. So it was a very bustling time. We were doing a lot of activations with corporate partnerships and vendors. We were bringing in different kind of industries, and we were growing exponentially, which was amazing. But it was like, how do you find that balance between community engagement and connecting and developing authentic relationships, but also how we up-leveling our leaders in the movement? So it was areas of opportunity, growth efforts, but amazing leaders that came from it that have led and moved it even further up. And I say all that to say, Shalima was my my godsend. Shalima was my rock, and she even made it even better for her next term. So this movement has taught me so much in regards to myself, personal and professional development, but also just leadership and how you show up to others.
Thank you. I actually started my first leadership journey under your tenure as president. Became a member under CHAD administration and a first committee coach under yours. So grateful for you. Shalima, would you like to share?
Sure. Good evening. Again, always a pleasure to be with our YP chapter and really excited to connect with these past presidents. I had the pleasure of joining YP under Rashid's administration, became a board member or unofficial, that's when we started co-chairs under Jamar, and really got suckered into the movement with Erica. I literally came to a YP meeting just to I caught myself being bored. And I was like, oh, let me go to this thing. And literally, I met Erica, and it's been YP nonstop. So blame her for pulling me into this at such a crazy level. When Erica talks about being her rock, at the time, I had called myself stepping down from the leadership team. I said I needed a break, and I wanted to go back to just being a member. And Chad actually asked me to come on as the advisor to the president, just to be able to provide some support. And to me, I was like, okay, that's simple enough. That's not too much. And under Erica's administration, our vice president had relocated, and Erica asked me to step in as her vice president. And then Erica also got an employment opportunity that took her to California, and really forced me to sort of be like the in-person president while she did a lot of the work behind the scenes. So it definitely took me in a different direction that I wasn't even looking for. Was a little bit resentful because I felt like I had to do this, but really didn't want to do it. But when Erica talks about the bar being set really high, I totally agree. All of the past presidents before me had won national awards for the chapter under their leadership. And again, you had someone who was happy to be the president, but really didn't want to. So I had to really think about, what did I want my administration to be, and what message did I want to leave during my term. When Jamar talks about the membership being at an all-time high, I think he left at 325 or some crazy. To me, it was a crazy number. It was a crazy number. Cause I was like, where do you get all these people from? So it was really interesting in trying to figure out how to balance that. So when I came in as president, I was one of the older presidents in the sense that I fit that 35 to 40 range. And that was sort of new for YP. Our membership has shifted drastically. Our members were ranging more on the older side, older being that 35 to 40 range. So I had to, and we had more members that were married or bringing their significant other to events, that had children and were at that mid-senior level career span. So the whole notion of happy hour, how to get your first job, how to open your first savings account, the YP members during my era wasn't hearing that. They were like, what's the 401? Where can I find my husband? Where my mother? And they was very different in regards to how they was moving. And I had to make sure we developed programming to fit their needs. So when I think about my administration, I definitely say it was a lot about really looking at who our members were, really connecting with our team. I mean, our leadership team did a lot together. They became some of my very best friends because we were together a lot. And we were really, really intentional about connecting and engaging. So one thing that when I think about my leadership, it was definitely about how do we stay engaged. But when someone gave the question earlier about qualities, I definitely felt like this was one of those administrations where everyone was striving to do well just because we were excited by each other. So I think that's one thing that I would say for my membership that stood out, is that we generally cared about each other as people, and that made us strive together collectively to do well.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving under both Erica and Shalima as committee leads, and then helping to groom me up into president. So I'm thankful for you guys. But Chad is actually how I came into YP. I was a regular person. I worked for the National Urban League. I was working for the National Urban League back then. And I was going to conference, and I was seeing all these young professionals everywhere. And I'm like, well, what are y'all doing? Because I'm at the office, but I see all these amazing people at conference doing things. I'm like, I want to be a part of this. So at conference, Thursday Network tried to snatch me up. They were like, well, you can come pay dues here. And I was like, I don't live in Thursday Network. I don't live in DC. Let me find my local chapter. So I came during Join Week because I thought I had to wait to Join Week, and then learned after I joined that I did not have to wait. But I waited to Join Week to become a member, and I became a member in January 2016. And Chad gave me like 3 months before he was like, I think you should be the next membership coach. And I was like, I don't think I should do that at all because I have been, I was serving on community service at the time, but that's literally how I got into leadership, kind of being pushed into it. So my next question to you guys is, what was your unique leadership, and like what other roles did you guys have before you became president of the chapter?
I'll jump in and say, you know, also when I joined, it was 2 years. YP, our chapter was 2 years old. So we were still figuring out a lot of things, but the energy and the passion was there. 6 months after becoming a member, I was able to be community service chair, and I became community service chair for 3 consecutive terms. I must say, I think out of all of my YP work, I'm most proud of my time as community service chair. And what it did for me is built a muscle around the repetition and consistency. Because at the time, my president, Crystal Williams, said she wanted an activity every week, at least once a month. We had to do a community service project. That's what it was, once a month. So what I remember, I lived on East 111th in Spanish Harlem at the time, and I woke up saying, I had an aha moment. I said, oh my God, did I just give up my Saturdays for like the next year? Humbra, yes. But it was great. So that's where I learned how to build community, right? That's where I had to learn how to work with people. Although I thought I knew how to do it as an HR professional, when you're talking about no pay and volunteerism and asking people to give of themselves on a Saturday morning, yes, I was abused, Bianca. Guess what? Look, all for the movement. I asked people to give of themselves. I asked people to give funds, you know, if they couldn't be there physically present, or do both. It was a lot of asking. And that's where I learned how to, you know, stick my hand out and ask, or look people in the eye and ask. So I'm proud of community service, but that's what I served. Went on to be New York president, and then went on to be Eastern Region vice president, and also for a time was the executive vice president before it was an elected role.
Humble brag. I don't want to follow that, but I'll go next. The interesting part about me, I leveraged my experience with Urban League to kind of expand my professional skill set. So I'm an HR professional and I worked in talent acquisition. So an easy transition would have been membership. My first role was community. I was in the communications committee. And the reason why I chose communications is because I really wanted to hone some of those skills of how are you able to build a brand? How are you able to promote and develop community in that kind of space? Quickly, within 6 months, Chadwick, or was it Jamar, one of our previous leaders, told me, you have a vocal personality. It was probably Jamar. You should be under membership. And that's when I became the membership coach. Well, it wasn't officially a co-chair position, but I started to take some of my skill set and experience on the membership side, and I loved it. I think that's where I was able to kind of build my foundation and what I really liked within the movement. And then that helped to propel me for the vice president role, president, and then national leadership training and development chair. But I think everything kind of developed its foundation within that membership kind of role, because with membership, you're touching upon all bases. You're being able to recruit, retain, as well as engage the community, and making sure that you're presenting in an authentic manner, but also there's a bit of communications in there. There's a bit of policies and procedures. Everything's kind of rolled into one, which helped to propel me for the other roles that I took on within the movement. So thank you, Jamar, because he likes to tell people, and he was scary back then.
Y'all,
but he was scary.
Erica's being really nice. Erica was a membership bully. Like she was a straight bully. She would roll up to everybody, when you paying your money, when you going to join, and then like throw you on these committees, and you would just be like, what just happened? I thought I was just coming to the meeting. So it was a little intimidating in that sense, but she had such a great level of energy to her that she literally gravitated towards people. And you was like, okay, here's my money. I guess I'll see you next week. Voluntold to a whole new level. Like you really wasn't even sure what was going on. And I remember Erica had, when she was a membership chair, her committee, it was like 50 of us. Like it was a lot of people on that membership committee. And we was very committed to the cause. We came and sat in someone's office every 2 weeks and had our committee meetings and had all kind of subcommittees. But like generally everyone was committed towards the goal of like, whatever those goals was that Jamar had set for that administration, they were very committed to them in that sense. And that energy sort of allowed you to sort of want to do more. I think I was in charge of retention, so I had to keep the members. My goal was to keep the members. So Erica recruited them, and then I had to find ways to keep them. So when she talks about being involved in membership, it really allowed me to think about, even though I, like I said, didn't want to be president just yet, that work in membership really allowed me to think about what kind of areas I could bring to the table as the president. And really, Jeanette talked about being intentional. I was someone who was very strategic in how I moved. I cared a lot about our brand. I'm a brand person. Like, don't be embarrassing us. Don't be doing nothing crazy. Matter of fact, when I came in, a lot of people was a little loose. We had some members who was just out there, and that wasn't me at all. And I wasn't about that life. So I was like, we got to fix our reputation. Like they was calling us the hot chapter. We went to conference. People was doing a lot. And I don't mind if you do stuff, but the fact that it was out, like everyone knew about us from those, it was kind of weird. But I was very intentional about like fixing our brand, fixing our brand as a chapter, as well as making sure that we were connected as a group. So I literally spent time calling up members to see how they were doing. Send cards. I was big on cards. Send cards, send gifts, just because I wanted to make sure I knew how members were. And I think the most important thing I did was, I'm a very big person in deference and a very big person in legacy. So that whole, soon as I became president, I called each past president, met up with them, talked to them about their administration, asked them what they thought I can do differently, a lot of times you want to do something, but you don't get a chance to. So I spoke with them about what was something you wanted to do as president, you never got a chance to do. And then I literally asked them, please check me if you feel like I'm not doing something well as the president. If that means you texting me to say, Shalima, what's going on with the chapter? Shalima, what's up with our money? I embrace that. Because to me, I was building on people who stood before me. And I was really intentional about, we function and we're allowed to be because the New York Urban League says we can. You know, one thing I always tell people, Arthur wakes up tomorrow and be like, I don't want a YP chapter. There we go. That YP chapter is going. So I was very intentional about making sure that we enhanced that relationship, but also lived up to our legacy in the community also.
Thank you. And thank you. I see Mr. Robertson has joined us. Thank you for joining us on the panel. So excited to have you here. Do you want to hop in and talk about what roles you had prior to being president?
Yeah, and I apologize. Sometimes my connection might be a little jumpy, but I came in under the YPs under Rashid. I was there for a few months and I became treasurer. There was some transition there with the treasurer. I became treasurer. After that, I went through the transition that Jamar spoke about, serving under his administration. We were really tight under his administration, just given some of the transitions that was going on at the time. Most of us was part of his administration at the time. After Jamar, I stepped as president right before Erica. And served, and to kind of go back, one of the things that my term was building, you know, they laid the groundwork. I was building on a foundation that they had, you know, that Rashid and Jamar essentially set, keeping the members and things like that. And after I took kind of a break, then I went on to serve as National YP Treasurer, I think 2017 to 2019. But everything that everybody is saying is 100% accurate. I think we've had our knockout, drag out fights, board meetings. I honestly, my first year as president, I had transition between committee members from the co-chair and chair. There was discord there. I had to make tough decisions with removing someone, which hadn't really been done. But as Shalima mentioned, she was my advisor. I called on Rashid or Jamar to get insight, how to, what's the best way. I mean, so it was difficult, because you're dealing with professionals in their own right, experiences. Doesn't matter if you have HR background, but we're all striving for the same goal. So, and we all wanted to make sure we were doing what we needed to do to push the chapter forward. But it was probably some of the best times in my life, experience-wise, and I've gained so much. And so, just excited, and it's great to see. We haven't all been together. We've been trying to get together, but it's I call them friends, like family, because when you serve in the trenches, when no one's getting up on those Saturday mornings or on the weekends at board meetings where they used to go long, until Shalima was like, absolutely not.
Yep.
10, 11 o'clock at night, we trying to figure out what's best, how to raise money, how to do different things, and how to Rashid and I say corporate prostituting in terms of building, relationship with corporations, and more had us trying to be strategic, in terms of how we stuck and moved. Erica was so bubbly. Yeah, I told you to go to membership. That was me. But the last thing I'll say is, as you go through the movement, as you work and serve alongside of the people around you, other people see things in you that sometimes you don't see in yourself. I got that from Rashid, and that helps you move to the next level. And I guess between Rashid, Jamar, Erica, it was our at the local level that made us to elevate to the national scene.
Yes, thank you. I was part of those marathon meetings going to 11 o'clock at night. It was crazy back in the day, but we got the work done, and the movement lasted. I was also someone who did not see myself actually being on membership and was pushed that way. I was like, I don't want to talk to people. What are we doing here? But it propelled me to where I am. Jamar, you talked on earlier the different roles you had, but did you want to add anything differently to the conversation before we moved on to the next question?
Yeah, I'll add a couple things. So in terms of the positions that I've held, I served on the membership committee while Rashid was president, I think while Krista was president. And then I was a civics and econ chair, and a very short stint at vice president, and then president. And we talked a little bit before about membership, and I don't want to take the credit for the numbers that we had then. All I did was set a goal, and
an aggressive goal.
It was an aggressive goal.
Aggressive goal.
Yeah, but you guys, Erica and Shalima and the team, they worked to do their best to meet that goal, and they didn't shrink from it. They weren't happy about it, but they didn't shrink from it. Right. So that's how you elevate people, and you push them a little more because they can do more and bring and get us to where we need to be. So it's about motivation.
Yes, I see in the chat people are saying a lot of membership chairs became president, which is true. The last 3 presidents at least came from membership. I know from my tenure. And then previous presidents as well have been membership. I think Erica, you touched on this earlier, like knowing all parts of the membership, being in different ways, having different functions within membership, kind of like gets you ready to be president without knowing you're getting ready to be president. But it's a training ground. So the next question I have for you guys is, one, we were all presidents or past presidents in the chapter, but why did you decide to actually become president? And what was your process in like getting ready to run and the process to actually run? I'm not going to start with Shalima because you said you was forced, and I kind of have the same story. So let's go to someone else first. So, Erica.
I knew it. I had an interesting story with my interesting election, let's say. I'll be honest, I waited to the very, very last minute to determine or even express interest in the president role because there was just so much pressure. And I didn't know if I could live up to that expectation. Imposter syndrome is another. I knew I was really, really good in membership, but could that really actually translate to leading it, a whole chapter, excuse me, that had a really large national reach? And I was scared. So it took me some time. I was having side conversations with our predecessors as we speak on this panel today, but it was like, I might as well just do it. It came to I outweighed the pros and the cons, and I was like, I really actually love this movement, and I would love to figure out how I could actually impact this local chapter. So that's when I decided to take on the role. But when I ran against another committee member, and we were very, very close. So I want to be completely transparent. It was hard running against a friend because sometimes elections can be contentious. And throughout the entire process, I found myself like, do I really want to do this? This is getting messy. I want to remove myself from the situation. And then as things arise, Arbor came in, and then I was appointed the role. So for me, I also came in with, I didn't feel like I earned the position because I wasn't elected. I was appointed. So I came in with a lot of insecurities, but then I also came in with a chip on my shoulder, like, I'm going to prove that I deserve this position. She appointed me for a reason. I'm going to do it. And one thing I can say is, if I did not have Shalima, Jamar, I can't say Jamar enough. Jamar's scary, but when you need him, he is there for you. Rashid, that's my heart. And I remember just calling, crying. So the fact that I was able to really lean into the previous leadership, they helped me throughout my first year. And within that first year, thank you, Shalima, and the team. Thank you, Eunice. We were able to win National Chapter of Excellence, but that would have not been able to be executed without the full family support of the movement and the previous leadership. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, because I was not the nicest. I found myself changing because I was trying to fit a certain mold, which wasn't me, which was hard. So it was a good situation. It was hard to deal with, but I'm blessed that I went through that because I really figured out what my leadership was and how I could be able to improve moving forward for my career. So all that being said, it was hard, but I did it. Hopefully that answered the question.
Good. It was perfect. Thank you. And before we go on, I just want to acknowledge our president and CEO actually just joined the call. So thank you, Arbor, for being here with us tonight. We're excited to have you in the room. Hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Does anyone else want to jump in and answer the question?
I'll jump in and say, I was ambitious. I think I look back now and say I was probably dumb, but I was ambitious in the sense that, and Shalima and I always talk about, I always say, this is a Rashibism. So everything they're repeating that I say are all Rashibisms, right? But YP is a journey in self-discovery, cleverly disguised as volunteerism. I'll say that again. YP is a journey in self-discovery, cleverly disguised as volunteerism. So I prefaced it with that, but there was so much I learned. I was ambitious. I could do the work. I was committed to the work, and I saw that as my next step, right? And so I went for it. And it's funny. By the time I got to Eastern Region Vice President, I was courted for that. I didn't want to do that, but because I was so exhausted from being YP chapter president. But to Jamar and I ran against each other for president back in 2009. It was actually 5 other people, so 6 of us total running for president, and I knew how to get out there and fight.
Steve had a radio ad, y'all.
I got on Wendy Williams. I got on Wendy Williams when she was on the radio. Guess what? I wanted to win. And
wow.
Maybe the idea of campaigning was exciting, right? but I knew here was the thing. I was committed to the work. I was an urban leaguer since I'm 23. So I was passionate about it, and I wanted to continue, and I wanted to continue to network and lead our part of the country in the movement. And so it was ambition, and it was ideas that I had. At the time, we were predominantly women and less men, and I promised all the women that I would bring in more men. And I think I kept good on that promise, and so when we'd be at chapter events, they'd tap me on the shoulder and they said, "These are some good ones. These are some good ones." I'd go to my guy friends and say, "There's some ladies you can meet," because we were all, everyone wants to meet somebody, right? And so, and especially someone that you felt was equally yoked. Yes, yes, or yes. So, yes, I did, Miss Rice. I did get on. I was on Wendy Williams. I sure did. Top of the hour, said, "Hey, I'm running for chapter president." We raised scholarships for. Sure did. So I had a good time doing it. But I was ambitious. Didn't know what I was all getting into, but I was dumb enough to be ambitious.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, I believed I could, so I wanted to. When I ran originally, I didn't have any committees or anything like that. I was, probably a membership committee. I just threw my hat in the ring and gave my best effort, and the best man won. Looking back, I can truly say I wasn't ready at that time, knowing what I know now. And then when Rashid's term was over, I figured I was ready at that point. I think it was myself and another young lady at the time who wanted to run, and it was decided that we weren't ready yet. So then, and this is the conversation that I was starting before. And then there was that appointment. I think there was some candidates, a list of candidates that were looked over, and they got down to maybe like the 9th or 10th person on that list, and that person said yes. That person didn't work out. And then once that person was removed from office, actually, we voted internally to pick a president, and the team chose me. But then it was decided that me and that person would be co-presidents, and I was like, no, that's okay. I'll be vice president. He can be president. That's cool. I'm good. But then a month later, he decided that this wasn't for him either. So then here I am. So I guess it was meant to be. So, I just patiently waited my turn. And I think all turned out well. But that's pretty much my decision to run for office. I always felt that I could do it. And I did. But there was some lessons learned and things I need to lean into along the way to be ready for that.
Thank you. That was a lot of transition. Wow.
There was a lot of transition. I wasn't lying.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna get into people who did not want to run. So Shalima, I'm gonna let you talk now.
Okay, so thank you for that. So as stated, I was very fond just being a regular member. When Chad asked me just to be the advisor to the president, I'm like, that's easy enough. He'll just call me when he needs something, and I'll respond to his emails. Like I was actually chilling in that position. When Erica asked me to come on to be her vice president, in full transparency, during that time, I remember speaking to my significant other at the time, and he was like, no, like absolutely not. You don't have time to do that. You have too much on your plate. Da, da, da. And we got in some sort of argument about it. And then I decided I was going to do it. So I did. And I remember serving in that role. And I did it more so just because of our friendship, the friendship that Erica and I had. Like I genuinely felt that, like to me, and Jamal and I laugh about this all the time. I believe being vice president is harder than being president from my own experience. And just from being vice president here and in my sorority, I always felt that way. So to me, I said, you know what? It's going to be really hard for her to be president without a strong vice president. So I said, you know what? It was 6 months left, or a year left. I said, I can do it for this amount of time. I'll just be really good at like doing everything I have to do at home before I come to YP. So I remember the board used to always be like, did you cook dinner? did you do laundry? Like they would ask me all these questions before I like came to meetings, because we definitely knew relationships was important. So they was like, did you do all that? And I'd be like, yeah. Or they would be like, I'll order the food. It was really funny. But when Erica finished her term, the timing for me to run for president was really, really critical. At the time, I knew that I was the right person to lead the chapter through that next hump. We had some challenges in general, and I just knew that my skill set and what I could, and like I said, for me being older, at that time, I knew that that's what the chapter needed, and I knew we needed to sort of focus in a different direction. So I was very intentional about, let me run for president, but I also was very clear about, let me give me a strong team. You can't run for president without having a strong team around you. So yes, the membership does pick the officers, but again, you need to be intentional about who's going to help you in this process. So again, Tasheka Winter was the vice president for me. I was very clear that we needed to have someone that I could mesh with. And then we thought about how will our membership span out. I did tap certain people to become co-chairs or chairs, and they were people that I knew would sort of ride out with my theory and ride out with my commitment to the organization, and it actually worked in that sense. So while I went in kicking and screaming, definitely one of the best leadership decisions I ever made. One, because it allowed Ms. Barbara Rice to notice me in a way that I didn't even think she was checking for me in regards to employment. So I didn't think she was checking for me like that. She was always someone that I was like, oh, that's Erica's friend, because when Erica was president, her and Arva would always be together, and I would see them, but I never really interacted with Arva at all. So to me, it was like, oh, that's Erica's person. But it also allowed me to really, really hone in on my own leadership skills and what was important to me, and really fine tune the sort of commitment and dedication that we had towards the chapter. So again, while I went in kicking and screaming, definitely don't regret it at all. Part of me does wish that I joined YP when I was younger, because it wasn't until I was like almost aging out of YP that I was like, damn, I want to run for executive vice president. I want to run for Eastern Region vice president. And I was too old to do so, but it was one of those things that I sort of looked back and said, if I had more time, I would have done this. So I definitely feel like it was a great foundation to hone my skills as a leader, but also helped me professionally in regards to what I was doing. When I left to come to the New York Urban League, my CEO wasn't surprised at all. She said, Shalima, I saw you always with the New York Urban League. I saw you on the news. I saw you doing volunteer work. So to her, it wasn't a surprise at all. I think for some other people, they were like, how did Arva get her to come? So I think that was one of the things that sort of stood out, but really, really allowed me to utilize my professional skills and personal skills to sort of fit what was next for me in that journey.
Yeah, I would say for myself, I actually did not intend to run for president at all. I was intending to run for vice president. I was 28 at the time, thinking, okay, I got plenty more years till I hit 40 to be president. So let me just start off with vice president and see how that goes, and then maybe run for president later. And then I was strongly encouraged, like, if we're gonna do vice president, just go for president. What you wasting your time for? And that's how I kind of ended up on the ballot as president and pushed this way. But we kind of touched on it a little bit, when you started talking about committee chairs and needing strong people. So, not everyone wants to be president. Not everyone wants to strive to be an officer, but people might want to lead committees and might want to show up on membership, civic and economics, community service, roles like that. What are some qualities that you think people need to be strong committee leads that might not want to be officers? Anyone can jump in here.
I would say time. I mean, to me, the first thing, I personally believe, assess your schedule, assess your life, and see, do I have time to do this? Because one of the things about being a leader is that you do have to be present and you have to be available, but you also have to have the resources and talents to motivate others around you. And that takes a really keen skill in regards to thinking about who your members are, what motivates them, how can you get them to buy into your experience or what you envision. So I would definitely say, even if you don't have aspirations for higher leadership, think about what qualities can you implement. And one of the things I loved about being a committee lead was that you got an opportunity to implement short-term projects. So to me, doing the back to school event, I was able to do that from July through September. That was great. And then I was able to move on to another project. Or I was able to do retention 3 hours a week and sort of call people and email and then move on. So I think it's really about assessing your skills and your ability and thinking about what works for you. I think one thing that's really important though is if you are looking to be a committee lead, do realize you are joining the executive team. So that does mean people are depending on you. That means you're setting a goal that you collectively, it's not just your president's goal, it's the chapter's goal. What are we trying to do? How are we trying to move forward? So as a committee lead, you play a role in that, whether that's hosting the Sobini conference or managing Joint Week, that's your stamp on what you're doing. So I would definitely say also think about what mark do you want to leave from your footprint in your work. You know what I mean? So I think those are some of the important pieces also.
I want to jump in there, Shalima. Thank you. That was good. You know, what comes to mind for me is, are you willing to do it, right? First, you must first be willing. That's with a lot of things in our life, in our career, in relationships. If you're willing, then at some way, somehow you'll figure it out. Number two, it might be also, number one, are you willing? Number two, have you done it before? Or do you have a knack for it? Does your skills match? Sometimes if you are in the professional world and you have a talent or gift for something and you think, you know what, I can add value to YP, or, you know, in this area. So jump in and do that. And also, you know what I've learned, you know, you're wanted and needed. And my request of anybody considering to be a chair or just considering leadership is, yeah, look at ways you can be a contribution on this planet. Right? So if you have counted yourself out, like I'm not the person that could do it, pick somebody else, not me. Well, what's going on with you that you wouldn't think that you're it, right? Because you might be the answer to somebody's prayer, right? You might be the key to somebody's breakthrough or the organization's breakthrough, but you have to play full out in your own life, right? And so if you always have those thoughts that, oh, not me, oh, I'm not the one, well, that's where you want to go and say, what's that about? And just like Shalima said, membership is different from leadership. When you are a leader, if you have chair behind you, if you have what have you, treasurer, vice president, secretary, there is a responsibility that you deliver. Now, do know that it's an exit. There's an exit date and there's an end date. It's not for the rest of your life. But if you've signed up for said thing, then there is a request or a demand that you deliver on that. We're waiting on it, right? Last thing I want to say, what came up for me is, answer this question for yourself. What's your vision for your career? Or what's your vision for your impact in the world? YP leadership might be on that journey, right? It's not the end stop, but it might be on that journey. So answer that question. What's my vision for my life? What's my vision for my career? I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'll say that I can tell you unequivocally that YP prepared me professionally. At the time when I was serving as president, I also had an opportunity to lead other traders at the investment bank that I was at, and I never really had been in a leadership role. So I will tell you that the experience that I had and the conversations that I've had with fellow presidents, past presidents, collectively, those conversations, those insights really helped. And it was critically important. And I will say, even my presidency, I went through transitions. I was split role internally. I pledged Alpha while serving as president.
Don't we remember, Erica?
Because now there's a rule.
As Arva knows, she's on the call. There's an unspoken rule to where you cannot pledge while you're serving in leadership roles. And back to like the team and the commitment to serve, like when you leave out of membership into leadership, you're not just responsible for your role, but other people. And I literally was in tears because my team pretty much sat me down and said, "You have a lot going on in your life, personally, professionally. Here's how we think we can support you." And then to be able to finish my time, the chapter, the different people within your administration go on, you pick up the mantle and the torch to go on and build upon what you're built upon. I think, remember, as we're seeing, is about the events, right? So it being different things. Those aren't the president's programs, the chapters. That's what the importance of the committees and the leads. Those are your things. Those are the things, that's your opportunity to make a difference and create impact, and to see those things to continue on. The president, he or she, is kind of heading it to kind of keep it together, but that's an opportunity for you guys to kind of say, okay, can I do this? And sometimes it does lead to the next level of, okay, let me take it. Like, look, I don't know if all you guys know this, but I also serve on the New York Urban League board as a director, but I would not have done that had I not had the experience that I've had at different levels, you know, from treasurer to vice president, from president to national YP treasurer, and to be able to say, I understand the movement, I understand different dynamics. And so, you know, it's a thing, but I will say that are around you, that you build, that you work with on, you know, is critically important. But I think that made a great point. Like, it all starts with the will, because if people see your will, you're committed, as Shalima said, that's where the other people start to see things in you, because of your commitment. You're always there, you're dependable. I can call on you, you pick up the slack, you're there when I need you, you're listening. That's where, you know, you really start to generate the impact. And one of the things, and I'll hear, is all of us experience some sort of incline or decline in membership. Go and ask the people who are not members, or they fell off, or whatever the case may be, is because of their lack of engagement, their lack of involvement. You rarely see someone who's really there, thoughtful, and engaged, say, hey, I don't really like the organization. It's those who haven't had the opportunity to join a committee or serve are the ones who felt like they didn't really understand, disconnect. Oh, I don't understand how y'all so tight. I don't understand how y'all do everything together. It's because we really were committed to the movement.
And we serve those long hours together, and it become friendships and bond. Like, I call Shalima all the time. We talk all the time. So I do have 2 more questions, and I'm going to ask everyone to go quickly because I'm getting the wrap up to go to breakout rooms. What would we miss if I didn't ask the question, as we have 3 amazing presidents who went on to serve on a national level. So the question I want to know is, 1, for our members, can you talk about that national leadership experience and what made you want to serve on that national level? And then 2, how did being a national leader help you to grow as a person? Oh, 4, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna jump in and be transparent. You know me. Very rewarding. It was also it was the worst experience of YP. There was all of the stuff people are talking about as far as disagreements or infighting or whatnot. We had 2 different factions sitting on the board. And here's what some of the things Erica talked about, being having 20 members or 50 members on the membership committee. I had some successes like that, and I was attacked saying that I had ulterior motives. At the time, everyone kept saying I was going to be president next, and I did run for national president and was not successful. But before I even decided to run for national president, I was accused of campaigning because I was doing my job and doing it well, and 20, 30 people. Or I would come down from a regional meeting after giving a great report or a good speech, and I was belittled because I was told I had ulterior motives. So I really had to do some soul searching around what the movement meant to me. And that's why I did want to continue on. And then also what it meant to work with other people. I learned a hard way how to manage up. And not that I hadn't been doing that, but really, when you really humble yourself with accusations, with lies and all these things, and still be able to deliver because you see that you do have something to contribute. And I also have people that are lifelong friends, not just in the YP chapter, but I mean the New York chapter, but nationally. Like they're my brothers and sisters, like hands down, like all that stuff. And I know I'm going long, all that stuff, Jamar, Chad, Erica saying, y'all, these were 6 a.m. phone calls. These were 7 a.m. phone calls. These were prayers together, right? These were, okay, let's go to the valley and see what's going on. You know, let's tell the truth about ourselves, whatever it was happening. And those people were on the national board as well. And I do have some powerful relationships. And I have some things that if we never speak again, I am complete. So thank you.
Thank you. Erica?
I knew you were gonna pick me. I absolutely loved my experience. I think everyone kind of assumed I was gonna do national membership chair because that's kind of what I love to do. But I actually wanted to kind of expand my skill set and figure out what else I could bring to the movement. So I applied for the leadership training and development chair, and there was no real structure because this was the first time they had built this into the actual leadership team. So I love the fact that there was a lot of autonomy, but I actually need structure to help to move forward and execute as a program manager. So I found it to be very, very challenging, but I did love the fact that with all the autonomy, it allowed me to really expand and really lean into members. Shalima was on my committee, of course, even though she was serving as the president of New York. You gotta lean into people that really pour into you. I brought in leaders such as Arva. Arva spoke, of course, my favorite. Rashid spoke, Jamar spoke. So I wanted to make sure when we started to take on this role, initially it was, I was going to support Whitney M. Young National Conference. We hit the pandemic and we had to figure out what does programming look like for our members across the country. So my committee was the first committee to start to really do core programming month over month to really develop leadership and development programming engagement and pivot for the community. So I love the fact that we were able to create something that was never done before, which is our Women's Summit. We had over 400 women across the country as well as external to the movement. And we really were able to make an impact. So I'm loving, I initially didn't really care for the leadership development training role, but I think things always happen for a reason. And I was meant to be in that role because that helped me with my position at Facebook or Meta. But thank you to this leadership team. I always lean in and use y'all for everything.
I'll jump in. After my term as president, I took some time for me. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. And there's a joke that Rasif has and that I've taken that, you know, if you did it right, then you should be tired at the end. So I can say with all confidence that I did it right. And, you know, I had the luxury of taking a year off, and then Carlos, who was running for president, Carlos Clanton, he called me and was like, hey, I want you to be my Eastern Region Vice President. And I said, I'll think about it. I was enjoying my vacation. But you know, I said yes, and I ran, and I was unchallenged, but I don't think if I was challenged, I would have lost. But so it was it was a good experience. And then, you know, I served 2 roles at the same time. So I was Eastern Region Vice President and Executive Vice President. So I had, you know, the Eastern Region chapters, and then also overseeing the committees within the national structure. And I think with those folks, I think we did amazing work under that team. And you know, as you know, regional vice president, we both years a chapter from the East won a national chapter. And Erica keeps saying I'm scary, but I don't think I.
You're nice, scary though. You know I love you.
So my team is letting me know we have to move to our breakout room so we can stay on schedule. So final wrap-up question for everyone. And this can be, you know, quick answers, but I'll be remiss if we didn't end the conversation on the legacy of leadership. So all of us have been leading this chapter, and you started your role with a goal of what your legacy would be. I want you to just share like 3 words what was the legacy and what do you want to see the chapter be in the future as well? What should be the continued legacy of YP?
I'll start. Oh, go ahead.
I would just say briefly, dynamic, innovative in terms of thinking and where we are, and impactful, right? In terms of scale, how we live in a very large, well-known city, thinking beyond, what we've done in the past and how can we be impactful. So that's what I would just say, in terms of legacy, in terms of how can we continue the work that we've done and build upon it. That's what I would hope, the next leaders will be able to do in terms of being dynamic and impactful and things like that.
I know, Salima, you wanted to go next.
I was going to say, my theme under my presidency was Imagine Our Impact, because I really wanted the team to collectively think about, and the team meant the whole chapter, to think about what could we do throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City together. I wasn't big on what our numbers were. I was big on what was the impression that we were leaving to that family, to that community, to those students. I was really big on how did we impact the community directly and how did they interact with the New York Urban League. So that was number 1. Number 2, when I think about the legacy, again, this is a rich organization that has a dynamic legacy of leaders serving locally as members, committee members, leaders, and those who go on to serve on a national level. So when I think about what I want, Ava was very smart in putting the advisory role into my job description. So it's one of those things where I don't even get a choice if I want to do it. It's it's part of your job that she evaluates me on. So that was very smart, Ava. But I also think it's also about understanding the relationship between the New York Urban League and the New York Urban League Young Professionals. As I stated to you, the chapter exists because Ava allows us to. So it is about when you're doing that work, how do you continue to lean in to make sure it's in line with the work of the affiliates, to make sure it fits what our national office has rolled out. Yes, there's opportunities to be creative and innovative. That's definitely a way that you can do the work, but it's also about, you can't have, you're doing all this great work for one organization and your affiliate's not really sure what's going on, or your affiliate's not sure what's happening. So I think just being really, really intentional about serving your affiliate, thinking about, for those that may not have signed up for be a volunteer or to read essays, those are positions your affiliate needs you to help with. So think about how do you continue to support your affiliate and do the work of them. So that's what I would definitely add to it. I'm gonna call on Jamal.
I think the legacy I wanted to leave behind was one where we serve all boroughs. New York City is not just Manhattan, which is why the 5-borough day of service was created. And I wanted to remove cliquishness. That was part of the brand at YP was cliquish, and everybody hangs out together, and leadership team only hangs out with leadership team. So I don't know, Erica, if you remember, and I wouldn't let you guys sit next to each other in the meetings. I would spread out, be with the people, because I wanted the people to have the best experience possible. As I think about the future, I'd want YP to be the premier place where young professionals in the city come to meet their needs, whether that's professional development, whether that's I'm new in town and I want to meet some like-minded people, getting a job, meeting a partner, whatever it is that people need, that they come to YP and those needs can be met rather easily. Right? Which is kind of why I had those large membership goals, because I wanted so many people to be a part of what we're doing. Because I think what we're doing is special, and I think we should, keep that.
I'm going to go next, so I don't have to go last, because I know she will end us up. I'm going to be honest and say I don't remember what my goals were, but what I can say is
the 5 E's. You don't remember the 5 E's?
I remember, no, it's been a while. I don't remember, so I want to be honest in that. But I want to say what you should focus on is purpose, passion, and community. We are one of the premier community organizations, specifically within the YP movement. We are leaders, and we're standing on the shoulders of other leaders within our historic legacy. So you guys, the fact that you have this Pride Summit, you also are really leveraging and leading into LGBTQ. No one in the country was doing that. So lean into that. Continue to be innovators. Continue to push the conversation forward, because that's something that we need. So I'm looking forward to learning more about what you guys can do. But what I want you really to do is empower yourself and empower others as we continue to build community here.
Lots of great things that everyone said. So I just want to echo that. You know, I can't say that I was that astute to have, how did I want to leave the chapter? These are things that I can look back and say, oh gosh, I had no idea. What was I doing? But I did, what I was proud of is that we had systems in place and we established some things that, and that's been my moniker everywhere I've gone, even in work, like I'm going to leave, I leave it better than I found it. And so that's what I think I was able to do. And then just same thing with former Madam President Erica said, Madam President Beckles, just the innovation and the premier place that people go. You know, again, YP is a journey in self-discovery, cleverly disguised as volunteerism. So the fact that many leaders the Mecca can show up in this city and have a place to call home and discover who they are in that process is what YP is, what it's part of it is about. And remember, we are a legacy organization. We are meeting the needs of Black and Brown and underserved people in New York City and also throughout the country as the Urban League movement. So as you prepare on what we are doing next, remember that our output should match the need, right? And if you know what the need is right out in the world today or in New York City, then that's why there's always, as our CEO says, there's always more work to do. There's always a need for the New York Urban League.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, this was such a fruitful conversation. And I know everyone was excited about the gems that everyone dropped on this conversation. You as president have been instrumental to my leadership, and I thank you for coming back and pouring into our chapter today. So thank you so much for serving on this panel. We are going to go into breakout rooms, so you